Thank you. Thank you, first of all, for being here. I'm going to do my best to answer any questions you might have. If you have any questions that I can't answer, I think there is somebody in the room that will have the answer for me, so bear with me when we get to the point of questions and answers. I'm joined by the Superintendent, Tommy Chang, obviously Education Chief Ron Dorsey, and School Committee Member Michael Conto. I want to start by saying that trust is our highest priority in our administration. Trust with the public, trust with the taxpayer, trust with parents and families. We have made fiscal responsibility our hallmark here in City Hall with a perfect AAA bond rating for 4 consecutive years for the first time in the history of our city. And we've achieved levels of transparency that's never been seen before in city government. In that spirit, I want to make sure everyone has the facts about the City of Boston's IRS audit. The IRS selects cities and towns randomly for routine audits. We were one of those cities that were chosen last year. So far, 15 months, the IRS has been conducting a comprehensive audit at the City of Boston's federal tax returns for 2014, 2015, and 2016. In this review, the IRS identified areas for adjustments. Some are related to city tax returns and others to student activity accounts at the Boston Public Schools. As a result of these adjustments, we paid back taxes and were owed, as well as Medicare payments, as well as $2,000 in fines. We were not fined $1 million. We were fined $2,000 in all of those fines. The money that was paid back was those other payments. For the city's tax returns, in a small subset of cases, we had Medicare withholdings that were miscalculated after a change to federal law in 1986. As an example, someone who worked for the city before 1986, then retired and came back in a part-time job. The original start date remained in the system, resulting in the wrong code for their Medicaid taxes. As a result of these findings, the city paid back taxes from 2014 and 2015 that were required by the IRS. No fines or penalties were issued in that particular case. We corrected the issues immediately by updating our coding. So we made sure that the issues moving forward will no longer happen here in the City of Boston by changing the coding in our computer systems. At BPS, the IRS randomly chose 16 schools to review student activity accounts. These are accounts that are money raised by the local schools, whether it's through parent councils or through principals or people coming off the street and making donations to the schools. We have them in, I think, almost every school in our City of Boston, or most of our schools in the city. They found the following issues: wages paid to individuals misclassified as vendors, including coaches, tutors, and exam proctors. These are not city employees. These are people that were hired by the accounts that were raised in these different schools. Wages paid city employees outside the payroll system for work beyond contractual hours or spending reimbursements. So there were cases where city employees were paid outside of their regular wages, standard wages, through our payrolls, through the payroll system. In 10 instances, 1099 forms were filed when paying a vendor such as a bus provider on a field trip. This last item is the only one that occurred. IRS fines $200 per instance for a total of $2,000 total. Several changes have been made to correct the situation. We've eliminated, and before I say this, the changes began while the audit was going on. When the superintendent found out and his accounting team over at the school department found out, they started to make these changes. They had a memo sent out in June of last year to the principals to stop this practice. And in August, when they had brought the teams back before the beginning of the year, they were all explaining that you can no longer have this type of practice going on. So these changes were changed before the audit was finalized. They've eliminated debit cards used with these accounts. No, schools will no longer have the ability for debit cards. We have required all such accounts to be held through a City of Boston tax ID number, creating one master account. We have communicated clearly to school leaders the rules and laws surrounding student activity accounts, so everyone knows now what the rules are and the activity around those activities will be. We have a better accounting measure by using a citizens bank where all these accounts will be held, so the school department can track these accounts and watch how these accounts are spent and making sure they have all the proper paperwork they have as the money is being distributed. However, because the IRS only looked at 16 schools in the city of Boston, we need to go further. These accounts were launched in the early 90s. They're in most of our schools, as I said earlier. They have never been audited or reviewed until now. For this purpose, we have retained Ernst & Young to conduct a comprehensive independent review of all these accounts in this entire complex issue. I'm confident that we're going to receive the information we need to correct these issues and to achieve complete transparency and to continue to earn the trust of the public that we serve. Before I take any questions, as I said, just for record-keeping ideas, we changed the practice in June of how this was happening in the past. So from June till now, we feel confident. So we're going in and checking all schools. I don't have an exact number of schools that we have these separate accounts, but I'm willing to guess they're anywhere between 90 and 110. Open up for questions.
Mayor, you said before that you were disappointed in the superintendent not informing you about this earlier. Yes. Do you still stand behind him? Do you think his evaluation should be redone in light of this?
No. He's standing right next to me. We are going to go back and we're going to look and see where the problems are in our schools. As I said, this goes back many decades in the city. This is not, I'm not blaming any of our predecessors here. This is something that I don't even know if I can call it an oversight. Somebody should have caught this a long time ago. We should have caught this 3 years ago. We should have caught this 2 years ago. We should have caught this year. We didn't. The IRS caught it for us, and now we're going back to make adjustments.
But regardless of the errors that you discovered, the notification only came out just a week ago.
Yes.
And why wasn't that notification made when you guys were aware of the problem, which stretches back?
Because it wasn't complete. The report wasn't complete. The investigation wasn't complete. And until the IRS comes down with the final report, I'm not going to release. We're not going to release half a report that doesn't have findings in it. Just like this Ernst & Young audit, we will release the audit when it's complete. We're not going to release the audit as we go through every single day because it'll change, ebb and flow. And at the end of the audit, we will see where the problems are. If there are any problems in our schools, I'm anticipating there will be some problems in our schools, and we'll also be talking about what we're doing to move forward.
Funds that parents and other people get money into, shouldn't they be informed immediately if there's a question about?
A lot of times people knew where the funds were going. It's not about that. It's about where they knew where the funds were going. They knew that the funds were going to extracurricular activity. If what I just said here was paying staff and coaches and teachers and things, parents knew that. The problem was the district was reporting it wrong, and we're supposed to be reporting as an employer, not as an independent contractor. And in a lot of cases, they were being reported as an independent contractor, not as an employer. It's changed today. What will happen now is we will run them through our payroll system. So if a parent or a group of parents or an organization wants to hire an additional art teacher for a school, that money will come through the account that it's happening now, but it'll come through central office where we will put that person on the payroll for the city of Boston and pay them as a school employee.
Why were audits never done before? I mean, state guidelines call for the school system to do internal audits.
I think there was audits done, but I don't think what we didn't go into audits of individual schools into these accounts, and I think that's where the separation was. If I'm wrong in any of this, correct me. But these are separate accounts. So when a school has a bake sale, that's the best example, and a parent council has a bake sale, that money is generally raised, and that money is allowed to stay with that school. That money does not go into central office, because if it went to central office, there's a good chance the parents wouldn't do a bake sale. But for their own child's school, they'll do a bake sale. So that money would then stay in the district. That money would stay associated with the school. What was happening in some cases is that the schools were using it to hire additional support in the school, whether a teacher or a teacher's aide or a coach or whatever it might be, and they weren't paying them the correct way. We're not set up as independent contractors here in the Commonwealth. It's against state law, and it's also we were paying them as independent contractors for all intents and purposes, and we weren't paying taxes. So that was one of the biggest I think egregiouses that happened that was found during this audit.
So there'll be no more independent contractors.
Everyone will have any money raised in a school. Anybody hired will have to go through the payroll, to the school department payroll.
And if you found anything that would lead you to believe there was anything other than mismanagement?
No. The IRS had not found any of that. We have not found any of that, and part of our reasoning for doing the Ernst & Young audit is to go in just to make sure the money is accounted for so we can feel comfortable moving forward. We could have just left this alone and said, okay, it's all done, 16 schools, they found the problem, but we know there's 90 other schools out there that have these accounts. So we're going to go in and check these accounts. And some of these schools' accounts are small. They don't have the the support that other schools have as far as raising large amounts of money. I mean, we're not talking millions of dollars here. We're talking tens of thousands in these different schools. So we're going to go back and review and investigate all these schools.
Do you know how much money is in all these student activity accounts right now?
No, I mean, it's impossible to, we will know. We will know moving forward. Certainly, I mean, we might know from June till now, but we didn't know prior to that because the schools had their own accounting for it.
How much will the audit cost and when will it be released?
The audit will cost, right now, Ernst & Young is working on a contract here in the city of Boston, a $600,000 contract. We're working out the details, what the additional will be on this one. And the audit will be released as soon as it's complete. And I'm hoping to get it done fast. We're looking to fast track this. I'm not looking for this prolonged, I don't know what the timeline on is, but I'm not looking for a 6-month extension. I want something done as quickly as possible. I don't even want to put a time on it, but I want it done within months to get it done so we can address this issue. This should not be, I'm not going to let this linger. We have too much work to do in the school department. We have too many important issues in the school department that the school committee is working on and the superintendent's working on to have this sidetrack this school department. I will not let that happen.
Superintendent, you said...
Let me just, any more questions to me?
Who handed over the check to the IRS? I believe the IRS agent.
Yeah, we pay, it was like, the check to the IRS, I believe, was like $2,000. But I was asked a question earlier today, I think maybe by Dan, how do we not know $1 million payment went out for the city of Boston? We pay roughly $8 million a day in bills. So I certainly don't have an understanding of, I know that we pay money, I know that there's a big amount of money going out the door every day. I have no itemized receipt of where the $8 million goes every single day. We have a $3 billion industry here in the city, and our school department's $1,067 million a year to run. So we're not going to be able to do that. But the check went from, I believe, the school department and the city of Boston both wrote checks to the IRS.
Last question.
On the issue of miscalculated tax withholdings for employees, one of the sections in the audit deals specifically with non-resident aliens. And so in the audit, it sort of says that in addition to, I mean, they're a small percentage of the number of employees it seems like this happened with. But it mentions in the audit that requests for things like visas, passports, residency status of some of those folks, that the city of Boston didn't provide those, didn't have them. So my question is, one, do you have a sense of what jobs these people are doing? And two, can we be sure that they were authorized to work in the country?
I can't answer the second part of that question because I don't know the answer to that. But the first part is just most of the jobs that we're talking about misclassification were misclassified as vendors, which providing a service, or classified as coaches. Some of them might have been our coaches, but paying extra. Tutors. As well, another program that people raising money for tutors within the schools, and exam proctors. So again, those are all, some of those are technical terms that we have people on the payroll, but what might have happened is a local school might have hired those folks and added extra money rather than going through the system. So I can get you more, I'll try to get more information on that. I was not aware of the aliens. I know that the Social Security will often use aliens. If you have a green card, you're deemed an alien on your card, and they have Social Security numbers. So again, I have to check that. I'm not sure about that. All right. Thank you.